welcome back. And in this video, we're going to talk about Byron's list evolution.
Yeah, of his Ironjawz stuff that he talked about in the last episode.
Yeah, so I said really confidently that I worked out a good list, and I've written 17 since. I think that really speaks to the strength of the book, though. So I'm looking for something that is super fun. I like not feeling massively like I want to take some mega complex power list, which I guess is how you would describe the last few things that I've taken. Last few things being 6 months ago when the world was a bit normal. So like 13 drops of weird Cities of Sigmar / Mixed Order, Seraphon, Pterodon, whatever.
That was never normal for me. But
Okay.
you do you. You do you.
Yeah.
I always do. So I describe them as headache lists, actually. And I think there's a real genuine joy to playing something super complex. But the problem for me with playing something like that, and I won't segue too much into my hatred of data management, but when there was 6 scenarios, I could play a list like that with much more ease and enjoyment, and there was less bookkeeping, less other stuff to think about, realms, whatever, like scenery, everything was a more condensed version. So I could play a list that had literally 13 drops and like 11 different war scrolls, 4 of which were new to me and I hadn't used before and I hadn't practiced with, and I learnt turn 1 and I just thought about on the drive to an event. I could do that, but now there is a lot more going on in the game. So I've been doing some deep thinking about this recently, and as a result, I would like to play something that I still view as technical. I have less decisions, but each of those decisions matters a lot, and as a result, I've been really enjoying playing the Ironjawz. And I think the book is, if you look at the recent FAQ and points changes, stuff's barely changed in that book, apart from the Rogue Idol, which was pointless.
It's not in the book.
Everything's...
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I hit you.
It's
You're
in the
going
book
to
of my
FAQ
heart.
your comment. So
That's fine. I'll run through it with some designers' keynotes. But it's a really balanced book, and if you look how the points changed, the answer is that they barely changed at all. Like some things went up by 10 points, something went down by 10 points. Hard boys were admittedly very good, so they went up a little bit, but
it was almost an internal balance change rather than anything to stop. For a power level, it was more like to address the sort of the imbalance between brutes and hard boys, in that when you write a list you prioritize hard boys because efficiently and points wise they were better than brutes, but not by a lot, but by enough to make a difference. And that was kind of skewed by the formation that allowed you to bring units back, and then if you had A for quartz, then it allowed you to use that to cascade the bringing units back from the hard fist. So I think the change sort of detracts from that, but essentially I said it on when we talked about the General's Handbook 2020 Gordrakk list show that we put up previously, is that the Ironjawz book is so, well, the Warclans book I should say, is so good because essentially you can tweak that list in a variety of ways, and all the formations are almost interchangeable, the battle lines interchangeable, and there's so many different variations of doing the same thing, which is to go and smash people in combat, but there are different ways to do it. So it's for me, it's one of the best nuanced, internally balanced books that's out there at the moment. So
I think I view it and Khorne similarly, but I think Khorne probably does it to a slightly higher level. Not sure where you guys would agree with that. I think Khorne has got game against pretty much anything out there. It's a phenomenal book, and
I don't think the internal balance is as good in Khorne, but
I agree with that.
I do think that has a lot of viable options, and I think a lot of it falls around the formations, the battalions that are in the book, and the way they naturally fit into armies that units you would take anyway. You're not trying to like shoehorn a formation in, it naturally just falls into your normal selection.
Yeah.
So it's just finding the points for it rather than, I've got to take X, Y, and Z, which I didn't really want to take, but I need to take them to get this formation to give me this, and it doesn't really fit with what I'm trying to do. But, and some of the Khorne armies are literally the formation makes the army. It is what makes the army effective. So
absolutely. You also get that nice feeling where when you go for, you're picking your war clan or whatever it's called, you don't feel like you've been taxed in any way, so like not too much in it. So when you take another one, you're like, I'm taking this, but my god, that item is a joke, and great, my my war boss can make a wizardry roll a spell, or like the things make sense. So, for example, I've been playing in Iron Suns, and that's got some really good stuff. None of it is like crazy, but it all makes sense. So, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by enemy units that target Iron Sun's unit in the first battle round. Just solid, like great, exactly what you need. My plan is to get into your face early. I don't have a massive amount of armor, which is like lots of things have a 4+ save, but no one's got better, and no one has after saves. That does not exist in the book. So that works really, really well. People are going to struggle to hit you more, whether it's with shooting or with combat. It's not restricted to melee, which is really good. And then command trait, you get an additional command point. I looked at that one initially and was like, oh, well, it's all right. I need command points so much. I use command points more than OBR use command points with this list. Like, if I
they
can
don't
find...
use them. They use relentless discipline. But yeah, carry on. FAQing you
So you
all
definitely
day.
need it more. Yeah.
Well, actually,
RDPs.
thank you for finding their relentless discipline points. Thank you.
Well, I've been RDP in some OBR recently, and it's been really good fun. So the artifact worsen the rend characteristic of the bearer by 1. Like just solid, great stuff. And then the command ability, which I'm not getting to use because I need to work out how to put more command points in my list, is use your command ability at the end of the enemy charge phase. Pick 1 Iron Sun's unit that's within 12 an enemy, and wholly within 18 of an Iron Sun's hero. Pretty unrestricted there. Like, that's solid. More than 3 from enemy models that unit can attempt to charge. That is baller. I mean, you know this from playing Corn Rust. That's got game, and that
especially when you're using
very...
more crushers.
Oh yeah, that's really, really unique, and quite a lot of stuff in the book. If it's a piggy, so a gore grunter, or a cabbage. Sorry, cabbage is the more crusher. If it's a cabbage, they've got game on the charge. They can do that in your opponent's phase, and it's really one of the ways you lose with melee armies is by not getting equity out of your units in your opponent's turn. So top tip for anyone playing against anything melee that is going to put you back against the wall: you run away from their big monster that's in combat with you in your turn. They're not doing any damage. They've got 1 model. They spent like a quarter of the value of their army's points on that 1 model, and it is now stood there doing nothing.
Please
like
don't listen to what Byron's saying. Like,
So stay there and fight it. Yeah.
Stay and fight my my big monsters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the strengths of things that I love. Stuff that does unique things. So things that can flee from combat and then charge. That's another unique one, and that's one of the real strengths of like left field units. You don't see much like in Nighthaunt or something. Oh, you charge me with your zombie
gas revenants.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, I want to be over there denying that objective, and I want to kill your thing that's on that objective, and I don't want to give this thing any equity in combat, so I'm now not here, and I am there, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, it's awesome. So having the ability to charge is a real threat, and I haven't even got to grips with the potential of using this yet because I keep spaffing my command points like nobody's business. So
I think that's the finesse in playing that list, is knowing when to use Mighty Destroyers or when to sit on the point, or when you need the immediate battle shock, or when you... And they are so precious now, especially with the Aether Quartz going away, that there isn't really a way to go, oh, well, command points are important, that's an easy fix, because it's not there anymore. I think that the management of resource is in itself a very rewarding element to any army that you play with. So
it's really addictive. Like, even in writing a list, you're managing the resources. So, I'd like more command points, so I can get one of those if I can get D3 command points at the start of the battle if my general is a wizard. Okay, well, then your general isn't a mega boss, so you can't war. Like, all of these things are little nuances and balances and stuff like that. So I'll run through the list that I started with. So I've played all these games against OBR, just as like recently anyway. I've played a little bit against Nurgle. But the list that I went with is Gordrakk. Now I've got to give a shout out to Tom Worsley, which I'm sure he'll love here. I didn't like the idea of giving him spell protection, but I think you probably just have to. So your your cabbages can have a mount trait, whether they are a unique character, Gordrakk, or they're just another one. That's great. That's brilliant. I love that. Weirden gives you a 4+ shrug. So if you're targeted with any spells on a 4+, you just ignore the effects. It's close to a mortal wound save in some situations.
So powerful. Like,
you need it.
Yeah.
Really, really need it.
Really underrated, because everyone just goes, I want more damage. But actually, being able to move and do the thing you want to do is more important than get an extra wound, you know.
It's super fast Nalcidian icon, isn't it, essentially? Like, you know, a Nalcidian icon on a monster. So
can't hurt someone if you're dead. And like, can't hurt someone as much if you're debuffed, can't hurt someone if you're slowed. It's super, super solid. And it's got that horrible thing. If someone does want to kill him with spells, they have a decision whether they bother targeting him, and then if they do, they still might get screwed. So I played against
exactly.
Nagash, and
I could say Machine Gun Nagash isn't going to be able to. You could shrug half of those, couldn't you?
You can. You really, really can. So that has. I'm probably never going to try something else different unless I'm talking about an army that's trying to go first. So there is an argument you just try and kill someone until they're dead, but I think it's pretty sensible to take that as an option. I couldn't leave everything behind though, so my second cabbage, he's got Heavian, which means that his impact hits, of which he gets 8 on the charge. You roll 8 dice. Heavy! And you roll 8 dice on the charge, and each roll of a 4+ rather than a 5+ is a mortal wound. And that's quite a big deal. That's really good. You've got other options. You can give him +2-inch move. You can give him
stacks quite nicely with the Mighty Destroyers, right? If you go into a screen that's like depleted, you know, you got the opportunity then to like impact hit them off, and then that allows you to go again, right? To get to the juicy center of the army.
So this is another one of the addictive things of the army. There are situations that are going to be rare, and if you get really, really good at probability management and resource management, you can make these situations more likely to happen, but you can't rely on them, where you could get a ridiculous cascade. So if anyone isn't aware of how that works, if you wipe something out with your impact hits, or as a result of your impact hits, then you can immediately declare another charge, and you get to go again and impact hit again. Now, I've got various things in my army that can do impact hits, and where the army really falls down here is you don't have ranged damage to like nibble away some wounds before that. So if someone's got a screen of 10 guys, you're not going to kill them with the charge from 1 cabbage. Or even the Gore Grunters, they do it on a 4+. For each model that finishes within 1 inch of an opponent's unit, after charging, you immediately do this in the charge phase. On a 4+, they take a mortal wound. So even 3 pigs and 1 of the dragons, statistically, they're like, even my pumped up dragon, they're not going to wipe out that unit. If you had a tiny bit of shooting to, like, whether it was in the magic phase or in the shooting phase, to just take 3 models out of that unit, it would make a huge difference. But you can, of course, charge something with multiple things.
You do have the breath weapons, don't you, that you can use before you go in, but they're not very...
Yeah, you do. Yeah. They're really, really important. So it's very easy when looking at these lists to think, well, if I just dropped 1 of the dragons, I would have 440 or 560 points left. And where you can spend them, there are significant gains, but you are losing a fairly reliable breath weapon. It's only it's a big difference between Gordrakk and the other one. Actually, Gordrakk gets 6 shots, and they are 2s and 3s, rend 1, damage 1, and then the other cabbage gets D6 shots with the same profile. There's a big difference in that. Like, if you got 5 guys in front of you and you can, like, I don't know, breath weapon them and then charge them, you're probably going to be in with a really good chance of wiping.
Plus it unlocks the charge 1 in, do the impact, charge the next one in, wipe it out, that one then charges something else. Then, you know, you can... And if you get into a point where you're almost reducing the unit down, maybe you can pile in round the side that you couldn't before, and now you can get closer to something else.
Yeah, so, I mean, something that kind of fits with this is that I think a lot of people, when looking at Gore Grunters, I mean, initially they don't look that great anyway. Like, you pay a lot of points, you get a not bad amount of wounds, they've got a 4+ save, and they've got quite a lot of medium quality attacks. You can get 1 more attack each if you give them a weapon in each hand, but they're with 1 each reach. But their 2-inch reach weapon gets a bonus on the charge. So,
and it's 2 inches.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. So if you're wiping out someone, let's say your charges go a little bit wrong, and you put Gordrakk and then he doesn't wipe out the unit, then you put in a unit of 6 Gore Grunters and they do wipe out that unit and get to go again, it might be that you are, with your pile-in after your charge and your 2-inch reach, you can reach stuff that you couldn't have reached otherwise. Not only that, but they're just more reliable on the charge. So I'll come to it soon, but everything that I've been doing has been about making the Gore Grunters as reliable as possible on the charge. That's kind of a big central part of...
So just to get a bit more concise onto what we're talking about, so your list that you took, could we talk about the list you ended up with? It was Gordrakk, a Maw Crusher, and then you had...
Fungoid Cave Shaman, who gets me command point on a 4+, really important, but he's been being very naughty boy. A War Chanter, 6 pigs, 3 pigs, and 5 brutes.
Oh, okay.
So one of the restrictions of this list is that the brutes get left behind. And I wanted to take Ardboys, but Ardboys need to be a unit of 10 to be battle line, and you end up in this horrible juggling situation where if I want an effective, that's with Gorefist, by the way, if I want an effective 5-drop list, that is of this type and has a War Chanter and has a wizard, it's very difficult to get utility out of your 3rd battle line unit. Also, you're obviously low on bodies. You've got to do a lot with very little resources.
So did you run the Gorefist? Because I thought you had to use Gore Grunters for that.
Sorry, I ran the Iron Fist.
Right, okay. But you end up with the Gorefist? Is that what you're...
I've played like 3 or 4 different iterations of this, trying to work out what goes on. So the Iron Fist has got late game utility. It's slightly more expensive. It's more varied because it can contain all 3 of your battle line units, so Gore Grunters, or Brutes, or Ardboys. Ardboys are only battle line if they're 10 or more, not if they're 5s. And you can use for free the Mighty Destroyer's move in any of your hero phases. That's really good. It's really flexible. Come turn 4, that can be massively useful. If you take the Gore Fist, it's pigs only, and they just get a move in your first hero phase. You're done. Your like value from the formation is over. It's 30 points cheaper, which surprisingly really does matter in some lists. And if your plan is to get into someone's face, impact, hit them, and fight them till they're dead, then potentially that's viable. But the ability to have extra moves for free without spending one of your command points, which are going to be like absolute gold dust late game, then I think Iron Fist is probably better. As long as you're like, I mean, if you're going to take 3 units of 6 pigs, then obviously take Gore Fist. But Iron Fist is, I think, stronger. But 160 points is quite a lot. Like you're paying quite a lot for that. So Iron Fist, War Chanter, Fungoid, and then Gordrakk and the other big boy.
And the Gordrakk, he does. The War Chanter, he does the ability to give him +1 damage. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then
so
he can take a beat, can't he? Like kill a beat or something like that. And
so you get it's not something you have to roll for. You just pick something and say you've got 1 more damage. I gave mine Killer Beat, which is in the charge phase, 1 friendly unit within 12 inches on a 4+, so not that likely, can make a 3d6 charge move, and they can target something that's within 18 rather than within 12, which is cool, but hasn't come into it much, and that's because the War Chanter can't often keep up with the army.
It might help your brutes like speed up into the battle line though, if you get lucky.
Exactly. So. Yeah, it's a big deal that the rangers of this army are like a constant struggle to keep everything within. You've got Gordrakk's command ability, which is incredible, where you can nominate 3 destruction units, not Ironjaws, and he's the only person in the book that's got something like that. 3 destruction units wholly within 24 inches. You nominate at the start of the combat phase, they get +1 to hit. Now, my piggies, the riders at least, they're hitting on 2s on the charge anyway, but it buffs their mounts. So on the charge, rather than hitting on 4s, they get a charge bonus 3s, they get Gordrakk 2s. It makes them more effective, but also if you're against Nurgle, or you're debuffed in any way, or someone's making you reroll 6s, you can tell I've been playing Nurgle, this stuff really, really gives you a bit more reliability. And also, if you can build your list in a way where you are going to get a Triumph, I think that's incredibly powerful, because the Triumph hits wounds or armor saves. Any of those are good. You've got 2 massive dragons. You've got 6 very damagey pigs that you want to keep alive. Reroll armor saves can be really useful for that. Hits is great. Buffs to wounds, they're rare in the game anyway, so they're phenomenal. And also taking damn to rain. I mean, that's doubly good, because if you take damn to rain, due to being an Ironjaws army, you can get a d6 move at the end of any phase in which you took damage, as long as you're more than 9 inches away from your opponent. So that can really help speed your units towards your opponent.
I think it's quite a good thing that the list is almost like simple but complex. It's sort of that dichotomy of there's lots of nuances, but it simplistically is a combat army that goes and fights stuff. But actually there's so much around that makes it way more effective if you can unlock the minutiae of using all those tools and abilities, which makes, I think, playing it really appealing. I suppose that's what appeals to me when I look at the list.
Exactly the same.
Just before we go on, because we've been going on for about 20 minutes now, so I just want to basically get to the sort of wrap this section up. But I mean, you played against OBR Nagash lists.
Yeah, I did.
And was he in Petrifex, or was he into Crematorium or something else?
Crematorium with a Harvester.
Okay. What did you play? How did you get on? Just quickly. So prioritizing your combats is really important. So I made the 6 pigs as reliable as possible, and I fought with them first. And I'm trying my absolute best to pick a target I'm going to wipe out, so I can fight immediately with something else. I haven't quite managed that. I've been close, but OBR, that's tough, especially if they got a Harvester. Did you get Nagash at all? Did you take him on?
I did, yeah, and with surprising things. So like 3 Gore Grunters on the charge when he's got 10 wounds left or something like that. Protection of Nagash has been hard. Adding up impact hits against units like that really does make a difference. And also charging things on the ends when you're going to get less attacks back, or you give someone a horrible decision on whether they take stuff away, so they're going to be out of range of the Harvester, which brings their models back on a 4+, or things like that. It's been pushing first turn aggro, but I think I've been too greedy with my command points, as well as the fact that I'm now trying to write lists that get more command points. So like I've written a couple of lists with 3 Fungoid Cave Shamans in there, for example.
Have you thought about a weird knob with the artifact to give him plus 1 or 4+, give him a point as well, and that gives you the teleport spell?
Yeah. So I tried that. I took Suffocating Gravetide to try to damage my own units for the extra move, and also have the option for damaging blocking spell. I don't think that is... The army doesn't have pluses to cast particularly easily. That's a real weakness with it. So I think the teleport spell is where it's at. There's also a +1 to wound for every friendly unit within 16 inches, which is cast on 8, which is a ridiculous spell. Like in that army, if you could stand that wizard in the middle of everything in combat, that would basically make your entire army be on 2s and 2s. But 8 to cast is asking a lot.
All right. So just to sum up then, you've basically played a few games, you've evolved it, and you've ended up using the Gore Fist. Is that where you're likely ending up, or are you still trying to find the perfect storm?
No, I think Iron Fist, and then actually I'm trying to keep the drops at 5 or less. Basically, that's my restriction I've given myself. I think if you've got 6 or more, you may as well just screw it and go up to like 8 or 9 or something. So Iron Fist, and with something like 6 pigs, 3 pigs, and then 5 brutes is kind of all you've got room for, unless you're willing to drop a Fungoid Shaman or a War Chanter. And the other thing I'm going to try out is the Ard Fist, which is using Ard Boys. And
that's where my list was originally, because it gets the War Chanter in there as well, which helps with your drops.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's really, really nice. But then you have to pay for your pigs, so I end up at 5 drops anyway.
I didn't take pigs, so... Right, okay, cool. So I think we'll move on from this bit, but obviously you've been playing a lot, and there was a lot of information about kind of more the generics of playing with Ironjaws, so it'd be interested to see if when we get to tournaments, if you can take that somewhere and let us know how you get on. Just got to paint it now, Byron.
I got to build it first.
Yeah, we can always sort something out. Right, okay, cool. So we'll be back in a set, and we'll do the next bit. So if you enjoyed that sort of content and that, and you please sort of like and subscribe to this, and to get more videos of this kind of type where we go through a lot of the nuances and talk about the detail of how to unlock the potential of your lists and armies. So if you're digging it, then subscribe for more of it.
Yeah, comment below
in the comments.
If you let me know how you would write that list, how you would play it, if there's something I've missed, if there's an amazing little trick, if you have some magical way to find more command points, please let us know below.
And Byron will shamelessly copy you. I will copy you. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, help us to help you. Okay, cool. Back in a bit.